because of my upbringing through college, has been the only guy I would listen to was Dr. Paul de Castro from Lima, Peru, and he happened to be, his first language just happened to be Spanish, which I had really loved because I listened as a kid, through college and through growing up. I listened to a bunch of Poncho Sanchez, and he's from Norwalk, but he's Tejano. But I heard from a physician that his roots go all the way back to Cuba. That's way in and that's where all the roots are from. The music that I really like is Machito, Tito Puente. They're all based upon that music from Cuba. When you talk about the roots, middle of a town square and playing drums and singing, which is rumba basically, and it was basically men dancing to drums and men singing. And the only way women can get it, women in that society weren't allowed to play drums. Traditionally, women were only allowed to, in that society, in the Cuban society, when they played at the conga, at the center of the town, they were only allowed back then to sing and dance. It was almost sacrilegious, because they had, even in Cuba, they had to hide their religion. Their religion had to be disguised. Their Catholicism had to be, it was actually disguised by Catholicism. Their true religion was Santeria, which came back to the African Yoruba region of West Africa, where there were Yoruban religious people, and they studied African gods. And when the blacks came to Cuba, when they were brought over on the ships as slaves, when they were brought to Cuba, to disguise their religion, they had to disguise it as Catholicism. And so they always had, like the Virgin Mary on their altars, or Jesus, to disguise their true religion, which was Santeria, which were gods from Africa, true drumming gods that came from Rumba. And back in that religion, back then, women in that society, back in West Africa, where they shipped a lot of slaves to Cuba were not allowed to play drums. It was only a male instrument. Only males in that society in West Africa were allowed to play drums. I'm a griot. I know this through my college training. Women in that society in West Africa were only allowed to dance and sing in that society. Once we came over to Cuba, it was still very strictly policy. They kind of kept women out. But once it got to America and the home of the free land brave, women start to play percussion instruments like drum sets. And you see women playing drums. But originally, women were not allowed to play drums. It was only men that could sing. Women were allowed to dance and sing in the Western African societies. And that's what I learned from my studies and the university.